Let's hear it for Chris Bennett, everybody. Chris Bennett!
Hey, thanks so much, man. Pleasure to be here. You know, I've been going to smoke-ins and rallies like this for 2 decades or longer, you know, and I've never seen a fight or any trouble. People from all different nationalities. You go to any sort of October beer fest or closing time at any bar, you see fights. This plant, like Bob Marley says, the more people smoke ganja, the more we have peace on earth. This is a plant of peace that brings people together, you know? And, you know, like, when we talk about a plant like cannabis, it's like we have a natural human relationship with this plant. And all plants, you know what I mean? Our right to plants is like our right to air and water. It's a natural, indigenous human right. And when we talk about a plant like cannabis, we're talking about a plant that, from the latest archaeological evidence, we've been using for tens of thousands of years. Probably some of you hempsters out there are familiar with the find with the hemp cloth that was 10 or 12,000 years old from Taiwan. But current archaeological evidence has revealed tools used for decording hemp, that's breaking the fibers from the hemp stalk, that are 25,000 years old. Can you imagine that? That's even before agriculture. So this is people taking wild feral hemp and breaking it up and making fiber from it and cloth from it, you know? And as far as like ingesting cannabis, you got to think in that 25,000 years, at some point somebody must have been handling some of that plant and getting some of that sticky resin on their hand, you know, and trying to rub it off and maybe throwing it in the fire and smelling that sweet smell. We have no idea when people first started smoking cannabis, but we know by 5,500 years ago in the Ukraine region, from the find of polypod bowls, ceramic bowls that were used for burning cannabis that showed evidence of cannabis in the resins and stuff like that that had carbonized on that, that man has been burning cannabis for 5,500 years. That is like 3,500 years before even Jesus was said to exist. So this is like thousands of years old. And we can be sure that inspired those people. It created new concepts and new things like that, because all over the world, in these ancient references, the references to the use of cannabis seem to be in sort of a magical or ritual context. The Emperor Shen Nung in China in around 2700 BC started noticing cannabis for a number of medical applications that we're only rediscovering in our own time today, but also for mystical purposes as well, you know, and Taoist priests later used it for that same purpose. And there's a quatrain from China written around 300 BC, first a yin, then a yang. No one knows what I do. Jade buds, a holy hemp for the one that lives apart. So life has its ups and downs, and the cannabis is given to us, kind of keeps us in the mellow way. It keeps us going right in the middle, you know. And the first actual use of cannabis for an anesthetic, for knocking somebody out, the first anesthetic for an operation was actually a mixture of cannabis and wine in China around 100 AD. So this is like an ancient medicine and sacrament. And in India, you know, in Ayurvedic medicine going back thousands of years, cannabis was prescribed for a number of medical applications as well. And Shiva, the oldest continually worshipped god on earth, whose worship goes back to the Stone Age, is the Lord of Cannabis. He's known as the Lord of Bhang, as India is known as cannabis is known in India, where it's prepared into drinks and foods and things like that. And it was a central part of Indian worship in a number of holidays, like the Holi Festival, where people are celebrating the harvest by throwing different colored paints and stuff like that. The whole country's getting high at that time, you know, drinking bang. It's available in local shops and stuff like that. And that's been the situation for centuries, you know. In the Islamic world, Sufis and dervishes have used cannabis to break down the personality and get down to that common essence that animates us all. So this is like a fantastic plant. In ancient Assyria and Babylon, they used to burn cannabis and use it in ointments under the name Kanabu. And it was used in temple worship. And there's numbers of references to this. This is a historical fact. And because of this, a number of etymologists, anthropologists, and researchers, people like Professor Carl Rock, Dr. Ethan Russo, the anthropologist Sula Bennett, have pointed to these Hebrew references to this term cannabosum that appeared in the original Hebrew text that made up to the Old Testament, and say that the Hebrew text, the Old Testament itself, contains references to cannabis used in a holy anointing oil and incense in the temple in order to enable the prophets and priests to speak to the Lord, you know. So this is an ancient shamanic plant, and it's believed that it was just limited at that time to the priests and kings with strict prohibits. In Exodus 30:23, you can read about this. And if you want to find out more about it, you can watch a documentary I made called Cannabosum, the hidden story of cannabis in the Old Testament on YouTube. And this use spread into early Christianity, where we have the use of the anointing oil to heal the sick and cast out demons. To cast out demons mean to cure somebody of like epilepsy. Epilepsy was thought to be spirit possession in the ancient world. And even up through medieval times, you know, we have Francois Rabelais, the great Christian monk in the 15th century who wrote all about cannabis under the name Pantagruelian, was persecuted by the church. And later on, occultists like Helena Blavatsky and Aleister Crowley and George Gurdjieff also discovered this plant for its mystic purposes. And the famous Le Club de Hashishin, the Paris Hashish Club, that had people like Victor Hugo, Alexander Dumas, and famous writers whose books are still written today, would meet monthly and ingest large amounts of hashish and record their tales and inspiration from it. So we're talking about a plant that we have been using for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and that it's illegal is insane. It's a law against nature, you know? And I've been speaking about religion, you know, and I tell you what, man, there is more healing power in this plant than any religion out there. I don't care what religion it is. Than any church, synagogue, mosque, or temple. There's more healing power in cannabis than any Quran, and any Bible, and any holy book out there, because those books and those temples, they're made by the hands of man. But this plant, it comes right from heaven above, man. And if you believe in God, you got to believe that God created this plant. And if you don't believe in God, you got to believe that humanity has a natural, indigenous relationship with this plant. That's the natural state. The prohibition is unnatural, you know? And when you take a look at these governments and how they're persecuting people for it, putting them in jail, ruining families. When you think about what those governments offer us and what this plant offers us, our loyalty is pretty easy to place, you know? Because when we were hungry, with the protein of its seed, the richest omega oil source known to man, cannabis fed us. When we were naked, with the fibers of its cloth, it dressed us. When we wanted to travel the world and see it, it provided the sails and the caulking for the boats to do it. We wanted to write it down, and provided the paper for that. You know, and we were sick with epilepsy, going blind from glaucoma, suffering from HIV and cancer. It provided a natural healing medicine to heal those ills and ease our pain, you know? So if you're going to stand up for something in this world, what you got to do, because you have a real opportunity here in Oregon, you have a real opportunity to like push this cannabis thing to the next level. You got to encourage everyone you know, not only yourself, but everyone you know who's an eligible voter, to get out there this November and get this Prop 91 passed, because the whole country will feel it. The whole wide world will feel what you do here in Oregon. And it'll be unstoppable, and Obama and the rest of them will have to push cannabis into the next level down from heroin there in the status, and we'll see legal marijuana in the United States of America, and hopefully we'll be following you soon there in Canada where I'm from. So God bless, do your work out there, take something from this event and make it happen on November. God bless.
Thank you again, Chris Bennett.